have 0 to 2 years of experience, you're all on the same level. Of course, somebody with 5 to 8 might apply, they might have an initial start, but then maybe they don't like to talk to people. Maybe they're actually looking at this job because they got fired from the previous job. That's something very negative. Other things, though, that you can actually think about. You work effectively under pressure. You work on multiple projects. If you're very good at some of these other things, multitasking, excellent communicator, these could actually help bump you up when you're looking at different candidates. So don't be too discouraged just because you might not fit the qualifications that you list here. Now again, English and Mandarin, hopefully that's something that all of you have as well. So most of you, I think, if not all of you, are already checking off some of these tick marks. Oh, I talked through everything, even though I'm highlighting everything as well. So let me do that right here. Bachelor's degree. Most of you, once you graduate, you'll probably have this qualification. That's a check. Here I talked about the 5 to 8 years. It might not be too important at this moment because, again, you're compared against the other people who are applying. So you may not have 5 to 8 years, but they might not have anybody who has 5 to 8 years. Oral written communications. If you've done presentations for your classes at YCU, if you've given a speech for maybe a club, if you've worked anywhere, you have worked on oral and written communications. Do you work effectively under pressure? Again, this is not something that you would just say, I have this, but you can actually describe different projects you've worked on, or even if you have a job right now, a part-time job, you might have had a lot of pressure, and you can explain these situations that you made to the interview. Multitasking, this is something that I think everybody in every college, anyone who has multiple classes, multiple reports, multiple projects, you have to be able to prioritize different tasks and different projects that you have. Communication, are you a good communicator? Microsoft Office. This one could be again, not everybody will have this, but most people I hope are working with either Microsoft Office tools, like Word and PowerPoint, or you can also say, I use Google Sheets, Google Docs. These are just different tools that, again, Disney probably uses Microsoft Office, but the Google tools are similar. Now, this is, I think, something hopefully everybody here would have. And then, this is, I think, also just creative problem solving. So the Disney example does not really list a minimum and preferred. The minimum qualifications are usually something that they want everybody to have at least this amount of experience, this amount of qualification. So this was actually the second link that's in the presentation was for Google. Now Google, everybody probably knows who Google is, and so they're also one of the most popular companies in the world. So they usually can get away with a minimum qualification because they've heard you get thousands of applications for every job they see. So when they talk about 8 years experience, sometimes they actually might use that as a cutoff. So again, something you need to think about for the job. But when they talk about preferred, Google listed minimum as well as preferred. These are things that they would like the person to have. So these are things that you don't necessarily have to have, but you can have something similar to this type of experience, and then talk about that first in your resume, as well as in the interview, if you go make it to the interview. Here's my story that I like to tell people, whether they're in the US or in Taiwan. I think even 10 years ago when I was teaching at YZU, I told this story. You don't have to be that best, perfect matching candidate just to apply to the job. You only actually need to be the best compared to the rest of the people who are applying to the job. So here's my bear story. This example, 4 people are just in the forest. These guys look like they're taking a picture or making a video. And then a bear starts to chase after them. Now, this group of people start to run. They don't want to be eaten by the bear, right? So now as they start running, maybe this person who's slowest is saying, hey guys, we shouldn't even run anymore. We cannot run faster than a bear. Let's stop running. Now this guy hears him and says, oh, I hear you, but I do not have to run faster than a bear. I just have to run faster than you. Okay. And so he hears, oh, okay, fine, he's going to keep running. And you might think he looks at a disadvantage, but this candidate, he's in trouble now. He just fell down. For example, he made a mistake in the interview. He's in trouble. Bear's probably going to eat him, right? So again, you do not have to be the best person in the whole world. You just have to do better than other people who are in that group of those. Now, the other example, or the other situation I'd like to talk about is think about the worst outcome. Now, let me draw this. If you are thinking about either applying for the job or not applying for the job. Now, the outcome of not applying for the job is, you're not going to have the job, right? You didn't apply, nothing to worry about. Now, the two outcomes, the main outcomes for applying to the job are, again, maybe you don't get the job, or maybe you do get the job, right? So now if you apply, the worst thing that can happen is equal to not doing anything at all, right? But the best thing that can happen, that only happens if you apply, is you get the job. So if you think about it in this term of, hey, the worst thing that can happen if I apply is the same as if I don't apply, maybe that's not so bad, right? Another quote I think I mentioned in my notes here. I don't know if anybody knows hockey. Does anybody know hockey? I think it came from a hockey player named Wayne Gretzky, who was a really strong hockey player. Somebody kind of asked him, why are you so good? How can you score so many goals? How can you score so many points? And he said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Right? So if you don't take the shot, you're going to miss. So that's how he said you can't score if you don't shoot. So this is just one of those things to try to be aggressive, because you never know. You have a chance that you put yourself in the application decision tree, decision action. Okay, now once you have found that job opening or the job opportunity that you're really interested in, that you like the roles and responsibilities, you think that you actually have good qualifications or good match with what they're looking for, then you need to start looking at what do you do with your resume. This is what you're going to submit to the job interview, the job application. So some people think, well, I have a resume already. I just want to give this resume to 10 different companies. So in my case, my experience, that actually hasn't been a great approach. What you should actually do is you really want to modify or adjust your resume to make it fit with the job listing, the job opening that they talk about. From there, you want to make sure that it's relevant. Things that you cover in your resume should actually be close to what they're looking for the job. Also important is to be truthful. I know some people, I know there's stories in Taiwan and in the US, there are people who have really highlighted a lot of things on the resume that are not true. And maybe they're pushing out the job, but then eventually the truth came out. And that's actually worse for them. So you want to be truthful about your experiences, about your skills, about your knowledge. Don't talk about, oh, I'm a great user of PowerPoint, or I have a YouTube channel, I'm a vlogger, if you don't have that in truth. Another good thing to highlight is any accomplishments that you've had. Have you won any awards? Have you gotten top 5 finish in certain projects or certain categories? These are things that can help stand out in the resume and make you look like, oh, this person has really achieved a lot of different goals or different awards. So each resume should actually be as close to the job listing as possible. Oh, finally, no mistakes on the resume. Because that piece of paper is your first exposure to the company that's looking for work, or looking for a person to join the company. If they're going over your resume and you have a spelling error, they'll probably just throw the resume away. Because they will think, oh, okay, this person is not careful, will make mistakes. You do not want that person to join the team. So make sure you have no mistakes on that resume. If you want to get 2 people, 3 people, 5 people, just look at it really quickly. The more the better. You really want to make sure that that is not the reason why you got taken away from consideration for the job. Now, one thing that a lot of companies use today are automated programs to really look for candidates. Right? You can imagine if a company gets 100 or 200 or 1,000 different resumes, they're not going to have a person reading 1,000 resumes. They're going to run the resumes and the applications through a filter or a program. Now, what is the program going to look for? It is going to look for the keywords that are also part of that job description. So the more that you can match that job description, the more opportunity you have to come out of this machine that's trying to match resumes. The machine will auto-filter these results, and then these final, out of 1,000, maybe they get 15, those will go to the person, to the hiring manager, and say, okay, these 15 came out of the machine, came out of the search. You can look at these 15. But no one is actually going to look at 1,000 resumes. So that's another reason why you want to make that particular resume as close and as matched to the job opportunity that you're interested in applying for. So once you have a strong match, that's when you might be able to be called in for an interview. And at most companies that I've interviewed with, there's an HR person who will talk to you first. And then if you pass the HR interview, he will then give you to the team manager. And then the team manager, if they also think that you're qualified, they will then have interviews with the team and other people that you're working with. So everything has a different step. But the first step is to really make sure your resume matches that machine matching algorithm. So how would I customize my resume? So these, again, are from the printout. This is from the Disney printout example. These are those responsibilities that they talked about. Now, if I look at these responsibilities, these, maybe I've had activities with teachers or worked with department leaders, to provide updates on different activities, different events, right? These are things that maybe I've worked on for daily communications with all types of media. Even though this is just a general statement of you're doing daily communications, you could say, oh, I had to do that at YZU. I was part of the program, office. We had to publicize or promote a presentation, and I actually took advantage. I was in charge of that. Did you ever do teamwork with your classmates or with other organizations, whether they're on campus or whether they're in a part-time job? That's similar to collaborating with internal or external stakeholders. And these are things that you may have done at YZU that you can put in your resume that is going to be similar to what they are looking for in their responsibilities. Some other examples that you might think about from your student life here: class projects, assignments. Did you ever write press releases? I'm not sure what kind of homework assignments you might have to do. But anything that's similar to what they're looking for. Did you send any announcements, share announcements to publicize activities or events? Did you have to give a status report to a teacher, to a manager, to a leader? Again, these are things that, while you're working on them at YZU or for some university club or even a part-time job, this is very relevant or similar to things that you might do, in this case, at Disney. So think about those types of things you've done before, and then include them on your resume. Qualifications. So again, this is the, do you have this? Not what you're going to do, but do you have this? So, I'm focusing on these four middle ones. Again, because these are very yes or no, right? Do you have a bachelor's degree? Yes or no? You can't really fake that. Do you have the experience? Yes or no? Do you know how to use Microsoft Office? That's yes or no. Can you speak English, speak Mandarin? Again, yes or no. We'll find out at the interview if they talk to you. But these you could have examples from your YZU life or part-time jobs or activities. Again, school organizations, school clubs, anything you've done. Maybe you've had to do communication, marketing, PR, right? Class projects, class assignments. Presentations and reports for classes, or presentations and reports for school events, school activities. And of course, if you've had multiple projects, you can talk about, in our program, we had 2 projects due in, the same semester 1 week. And I had to actually really juggle everything to make it all work. These are types of things you've done in YZU that can actually be relevant to the qualifications that they're looking for. All right, let's get to the interview. So this is a YouTube. I'm not sure if it will play. Let's see. It may not play.
The link is dead. It's not working.
Is there a link right here?
Maybe you can stop on YouTube.
Yeah, find it on YouTube. talk for too long, so this is kind of one of the mini breaks we have. This is just an example of a job interview from a commercial in the United States.
Mr. Goodman? What makes you think you qualify for this job?